It with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Spencer Huang, who is the SVP of Global Sales at Cubo. Welcome to the show, Spencer.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations. I know you just got promoted from managing a team of only 5 people in North America to now the global team of about 50 people, pre-sales, pro-sales, a lot of responsibilities. And also your company just got bought out, right? Tell us about this change and how is that going to affect the business?
Yeah, so 2020 has just been a year of change. Everything has changed. And this acquisition has just added additional change to my life. As you mentioned, going from a team of 5 people to 50 people global has just been really significant. In addition, I have new roles that are now reporting into me. So before I was very sales focused, and now we have customer success managers. I have solution architects, all part of this organization. And it's been a learning for me because now everyone is saying, "Hey, we're reporting into sales. Does that mean we're salespeople, or what does that mean for my job?" And so I'm having to figure out and work with people on individual levels to understand, what is it that you were doing? What is it that you like to be doing? And how can I help get you to where you want to go? Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of, one of the biggest change has been, and especially with COVID, is listening to folks and helping them achieve their goals.
Okay, so Cubo provides data lake technology, right? Helps businesses to put a lot of data into one place and access that to do the business insights that they need. But now you're part of a bigger portfolio. Is there any benefits or any changes to the business?
So there's been a lot of change, I think, with any acquisition. So we were acquired in October. I think with any acquisition, it's going to take 60, 90 days before you see the real results. But I think from immediately, there's been personnel changes, as we just talked about. And then we're aligning ourselves with Idera, which owns a portfolio of developer tools, data companies. And a lot of the synergies of how we work with the sister companies, that's being planned right now. Idera has over 10,000 customers. And so I think that makes us very excited on how we can start to talk to those customers about the value of Cubo and how we can power their data lake. Mm-hmm. Other business outcome changes. I mean, it's like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a wait and see, but I think we're getting a lot of support from the Idera folks about just, they're looking at our current processes, and it's kind of good because it's almost like hiring consultants. You're getting consultants who come in from the outside and they're asking those questions. Why are you doing it this way? Well, first ask, what is this? And then why are you doing this way? And it's making me and others think, yeah, why are we doing it this way? And the worst answer you can say is it's because we've always done it that way, right? But I think it's asking, and it's, for some of us, changes, well, for all of us, change is hard. It's very hard. But I think for those who are open to the change, I think, for people like me, it's like, okay, I'm willing to ask why and be open to understand how can we get better, and if you have a perspective about how we can change it or do it better let's hear it.
So I want to ask you about this leadership that you have and the idea of managing a larger team with a certain approach to, let's go with sales. Okay. When you look at enterprise sales nowadays and you're in an area where it's very technical, you're talking about data lake, how to optimize managing that, how to effectively get insights out of that for smarter business decisions. The team that you're managing, what is the sales framework that you have or the tips that you would like to share to other sales teams out there?
Yeah, so there's so many different frameworks out there: value selling, solution selling, customer-centric selling, and I'm not going to go medic. I'm not going to go into that because I think you can read about that. I mean, I have my own, and I think it's like mixed martial arts, MMA, right? I like to take a little bit of some here, and then I believe everyone needs to be true to themselves. I mean, this is who I am. This is how I was shaped, and so I'm not going to just take a methodology and try to say that's the new me. I believe people should love what they do. I love what I do, and I want to be who I am in what I do. And so I can lead don't get me wrong, I do read books on leadership. I want to get better, but I want to be true and be very transparent in my leadership. So I think things that I do, I believe if I'm going to, okay, so in sales we have this term called TCV, and it stands for total contract value. And to me, I like, instead of total contract value, I like to think of it in a different way. So when I interact with a prospect, I have redefined TCV. So let me ask you, Jessica, when you meet someone for the very first time, what are the questions you think that person, or what are the questions, okay, when you meet someone for the first time, what are the questions you're asking yourself about that person?
Well, I think that in the sales process, when you're in front of a prospect, that's when you're trying to discover a bit more about their pain points.
Okay,
And
let's flip it around. Let's just say you're the buyer and
okay,
you're meeting a salesperson, because in sales, right, we want to think like the buyer. So if I'm a salesperson and you meet me for this first time, what are the top 3 questions that are going to come to your mind?
I would expect that person to try to discover more about my role and responsibility, whether I have the authority, whether I have the pain
Okay.
points
Okay.
and the timing.
All right, so you're going through the framework, right? Pain points. Do they have budget? Do they have? But you know what? At the end of the day, we're human, right? And all that stuff is like a framework and methodology. But you have to bring back. There's an author, Daniel Pink. I think his book is called "To Sell Is Human" or something to that effect. You're a human. You're not asking. To be honest, yes, you're probably thinking about that. But at the end of the day, you're asking. If I go to TCV, first thing you're asking yourself is, hey, this handsome looking guy, Spencer, I'm talking to, T, can I trust him?
Okay.
Okay. Second thing is C, I call it compassion. You're thinking to yourself, outside of what, your business problem, you're thinking, does this guy really care about me? Right? Does he really care about me? That's C. And then V, like is value. Does this person, can he help me? Can this person help me with what I'm trying to achieve? And so in sales, yes, we want to know if they have budget, what's the decision-making process, are we want to discover those things, but at the end of the day, I really think, and then for myself and for all the people that work for me, you need to deliver on all those TCV, every interaction. You need to build trust. You need to ensure the customer, you need to be compassionate, and you can't fake compassion. And then the third thing is you need to bring value. Every part of the step you're going through, you need to deliver value to the prospect or to the customer in some way. Otherwise, you never will get a sale.
So Spencer, so you have a very technical background. Actually, a lot of salespeople have sales background, but you have not just sales background. You have an engineering background, and you have a lot of certification in cloud architecture and all that. So I'm thinking you have tremendous advantage when you're in front of clients and prospects, because you have a lot of credibility in what you're talking about when you discuss modern platforms.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say, I appreciate you looking at that. It is that credibility, and and I do it not because, I do it because I like to learn. I'm passionate about it. You should always be passionate about what you do at work. And then bringing credibility, but it's more than credibility. It's I hope to bring value. I hope to come in and be able to ask the right questions to help the prospect. If I'm just a sales guy and all I can just talk about is, what's your handicap? When you want to play golf, you bring really no value to a technical problem and maybe a business problem. So having the certifications, going through that, that's my goal, is really to be able to understand the buyer, understand their pain points, and then to be able to ask the right questions.
But do you expect your sales rep also to be technical like you, get certified and all that?
I don't expect it. I hope that I could be a role model. Like, they don't need to, I understand we're all shaped differently. And if they don't have the passion to go down the technical path, that's fine. But I do expect them to at least pursue something, to get better and not just be lazy. I just want to go back a little bit to talk about, why, to have a passion to be able to get certified or to go into something a specialty, so you can ask those questions. I have I've written about it on my LinkedIn article. I actually have a few LinkedIn articles that have gone viral. But one of the methodologies that I put together, I haven't written about it. I call ALO, and it stands for Ask, Listen, Observe, Empathize. And that methodology, I believe, it can apply to any situation. But I think in the sales cycle, and we just talked about it, like, why do I do it? So I can ask the right questions. I want to be able to come into a prospect, and it's quite unfortunate, and everyone will say it, but most salespeople, and I know I'm doing a lot of the talking, but I hope that when I'm in a process, that I'm not doing all the talking. I'm sitting there maybe asking questions and then listening.
I think that's a very important stage, right? The discovery stage, where you have to make sure you ask the right question, keep it engaging, and not turn off your prospect. But
yeah, I think
you want to be able to have that connection and still kind of gather as much information as you can.
Right. And so earlier I talked about this TCV, trust, compassion, value. And so where a lot of salespeople go wrong is, yes, you got to go in discovery, ask those questions, find out, ask their budget, what's the decision making. And so what happens is prospects sometimes feel like they get turned off by it because people don't know how to ask the right questions, or, it's like they'll come in and just play 20 questions, okay, when are you looking to buy? How much money do you have? What's your pain point? And when you start asking those questions, it's such a turn off. And it's like, I've seen it happen. Prospects will be like, we just wasted 25 minutes and you've just been asking me questions. I've gotten no value from what you've said, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. And that's a lose-lose situation. So I think there has to be a way, or there is a way, that salespeople need to ask, and to ask the appropriate questions. And I can go into a little bit about that.
Yeah, tell us, what are some of the questions that are really good to use during that time?
Well, yeah, so I'm going to back up a little bit because, salespeople in sales methodologies, they always say you should go discover and ask questions. But I think people need to understand, we as humans, like, why don't we generally ask questions? And, if you have a kid, or you've seen kids, when kids first, like age of 3, it's such a wonderful year. What do they do most of the time?
Why?
Why? They ask questions, right? So we as humans in general, we're naturally curious, right? We ask questions. But then what you'll see is, as we get older, we stop asking questions, right? It's about, then I need to tell you the answer. And and there's many reasons around that. Society tells us you shouldn't ask questions. I mean, teachers, look at the school system. It's about, you're sitting there and a teacher's telling you. I talked about just, there's sayings, right? Curiosity killed the cat, right? Don't ask me no questions. I'll tell you no lies. I mean, there's so much around our universe, or our society, our world, that tells us don't ask questions. It just discourages it. And so when you're trying to teach a salesperson to ask questions, they've forgotten how to ask questions. And I think it's almost like you had to take yourself back to when you were a kid. And when you were a kid, you were asking questions. You were asking questions because you were genuinely interested. You didn't know the answer, and you genuinely wanted to find out, like you said, why. And I think salespeople, what's their motivation for asking those questions? I want to ask those questions because I want to get a deal done. That's not the right motivation, right?
Yes.
So I think going now, fast forward to what we're talking about, how do we ask the right questions? Well, we definitely need to ask the right questions with, being, having that right motivation, being really curious. Also, you need to, the way you approach questions, right? I mean, sales are all like, I want to ask this question so I can trap them, so I can figure out the right date, right? That's the wrong motivation. That's the wrong way, right? That's actually a closed, almost like you're closing in the question. We need to ask questions that are open-ended. I mean, do you understand what open-ended means? It's more like, I'm asking a question that first validates what you're feeling and what you're saying, and it truly validates what you're saying. And then let's talk about how to move forward. It's not just describing what you just said to me, but I need to validate And then maybe if I have credibility, if I have a certification, I can say, you know what, Jessica, that's right, because I was helping this customer, or I saw this happen in this way, and they said the exact same thing, and they wanted to approach it that way. So it's validating. It's not just saying, Jessica, so what you have just said is this is your problem and this is your pain point. That's not validating. That's just me repeating what you said. And so bringing that extra level of credibility helps, validating, and then getting into your mind, like, what are you thinking? Like when you said that stuff, why were you thinking that? And why were you feeling that? And so that takes it down to another level of how you can ask the right questions. Because when I'm asking you questions and you're responding, many times sellers were going down the checklist and they're like, okay, check, let me get to my next question. But that's part of the algo. You need to bring in the listening part, and you need to listen to what they're saying so that I'm not ready to get to my next question, but I'm formulating what is the appropriate right next question. Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, I think about our conversation now because I'm asking a lot of questions because I want you to share thoughts that would help the audience when they listen. But at the same time, I have to kind of figure out based on what you're sharing at this moment to then ask the next question, right? It's going to be based on what you're saying as opposed to having a list of questions already.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So you're doing a great job because you don't have that list where it's just like, I need to go through this, right? And I hope, and I think and I can tell you're doing, I don't want to say hope, I know you're feeling what I'm feeling, you're processing what I'm saying, and then you're formulating your next question based on what I'm saying. And so you're listening to me. You're not just hearing me, you're actually listening to me. And I appreciate that about you.
All right. And so the next question I have for you is that in terms of managing the global team like this and
Yeah.
having different teams that you're managing, what kind of approach or what strategy you're going to use in order to make sure that you increase the efficiency of the teams working together?
Yeah. It's compounded on top of, yeah, with COVID and then the acquisition. So it's okay. There's a lot of books, and there's like this book, The 1 Minute Manager, and I think in summary, you need to meet people where they are, and you cannot have a general rule and just blanket out how I can this is how it's going to be and it's going to apply to everyone. Unfortunately, with COVID and with the acquisition I talked about, this change is very difficult. And I think one thing that's been good about change, or with this COVID situation, is people's true selves are coming out. And what I mean by that is, we're, with COVID and all of us being at home, we're no longer able to hide. We put up barriers all the time, and I'm trying to protect. I don't want my coworkers or my customers to see who I am. And now we're all at home. If the dog is barking or my kids come running in, I think we talked earlier, like I didn't even shave. I did put a shirt on today, but I still have shorts on, so I can stand up and show you. So this is the true me, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore, because this is who we are. And COVID has forced us to be who we are. And so I think one thing that I've seen is, with all this change, and especially management change, with the acquisition, people's true colors are coming out. And maybe they don't want it to come out. Maybe they've hit a certain limit, but a lot of those walls are coming down. And for better or for worse, I'm starting to see, what people are saying and then how they're acting. A lot of times there's a disconnect now because COVID has, or this lockdown, or all these changes have exposed that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to utilize that. And I'll just be very, some people with change are open to it. I would say the majority of people are not. And some people have shut down, actually, with change. They're just like, I don't want to be part of it. This doesn't work for me. And so what does that mean for me? It means going back to all the things that I've talked about, in sales, what we just talked about. It's about one-on-one conversations, me asking the right questions, and me listening to them. And I'm trying to see how I can help those folks. Unfortunately, some people are just, you can't help them. And I'm not going to be a savior. I'm not going to try to help everyone, but I want to be there to say, if you want to be helped, I can help you with your career, or I can help let's figure out a career path for you, or let's, what are ways that you can change. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's part of the servant leadership is right, trying to listen, understand, and then how do you help them?
yes, exactly, and that's one of those things. Glad you looked at my LinkedIn, that I truly believe in is it's what does it mean to lead? To basically to lead means to serve,
Hmm.
and it's putting others above you. So I mean, that's kind of who I am. And I try to take that wherever I go in my leadership and in my management of others. And really, it's about if they win and they get to where they want to go, then I win.
Right. And I think that applies to prospects and customers too, right?
Yes.
When you look at servant leadership and you're in front of clients and prospects. One of the things I wanted to ask is about the conversation in the modern data lakes,
Yeah.
because as more and more data is being dumped into this huge area called the lake, doesn't it become overwhelming and lose its efficiency, some of the benefits at early on? And then how do you address that? When you look at the modern architecture, what are some of the tips that you would share to
Yeah. Yeah.
companies out there?
Yeah, so going back to what COVID has done, for certain industries, it's been very tough. Like if you're in travel and hospitality, but in the other industries, it's been fantastic. So if you're in gaming or you're in video on demand, I won't name any customers, but these customers are doing fantastic, and they're seeing data sizes and traffic just on an enormous scale. And so what I'm seeing, our customers are asking us, or they're asking themselves, really interesting questions they've never asked before. It's about scaling. So before you had a data lake, and the data lake was great because you could dump your data in, you can get your insights, you can do what you have to do. But imagine if someone opened up the floodgates and all this water comes rushing into the lake, and the lake just grows tremendously large. How do people, like in that organization, how are they going to get the data? How are they going to manage that data lake? And so with Qubole, our customers are coming to us, are asking us what are some best practices, and what are some ways. And thankfully, we don't have to have all the answers. Zamak Dagani, she has put together something called domain-oriented data lake architecture, and she has put that principles, and I'm seeing some of my customers adopt that. And I want to talk a little bit about what domain-oriented means, because domain-oriented design has been around for a while, and it's about reducing complexity and putting the business logic and the business teams together in different domains. And what we're starting to see, going back to your question about efficiencies, is we're starting to see in the data lake architecture, different domain groups are starting to form together within the lake. So you have finance will be here, and you'll have marketing will be here, and then the overall data lake health can be monitored by corporate IT. And so we're starting to see these architectures come up, and they're leveraging Qubole for those things.
And how do you know when you should be applying this domain-oriented strategy?
Yeah, hopefully. So I think it doesn't apply to all customers. We're, as I mentioned, with certain customers that are just seeing tremendous, that have to scale, they're having to do it. I'm thankful that some of them are being very proactive, but you think about, when do you have to do it? Well, you do it. Some are being forced to do it due to laws. So we have the CCPA and GDPR and data privacy. So when everything is in a data lake, we talk about data governance. And unfortunately, maybe it's a bad actor will come in and be like, hey, I want to see how much Jessica makes and how much bonus she got. And they get into the data lake and they're able to see all that, compensation information. And someone in HR or finance is like, ho, that stuff shouldn't be accessible to you. And so we need to have that domain be separate, or be regulated by their own folks, as opposed to the general data lake. So that's forcing some of this to happen, where you have data privacy issues.
But that doesn't require the scale part. I mean, having confidential information be sectioned off. Even a small company needs to do that.
Yeah, and I think there's tools out there that can allow them to do it. But when you have scale and these kind of issues come in, it just magnifies it. So I just give you that's one example. Other examples, I mean, when you start to, you have a data lake, and imagine if you have, it's good for the lake. There's like 100, 1,000 people. They're all happy in the data lake, and everyone can do their jobs. But imagine if you can reach 10,000 people, and the lake is only a certain size, then the lake starts to get muddy. And so, how do you then at that point start to break people off? Maybe you have a separate data lake, right? You have a central data lake, or you have a separate data lake, and how to intertwine, and how do those get connected? That's what we're starting to see as well.
Right, right. Okay. Well, it's been a great conversation, Spencer. Thank you so much for being on the show to talk about the modern data lake platform at Cubo, and congratulations again to your promotion and your company being part of a portfolio at Idera.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful holidays, and we're all hoping that 2021 will be a fantastic year.
Same here. There you have it. Take it up with Jessica Lee, Spencer Huang from Cubo.